In this lesson, we'll cover graphic overrides, specifically for HVAC and plumbing layouts. Looking at my screen right now, I have an HVAC layout, basically made up of some actual ductwork and some HVAC components, diffusers if you will. Well, before I go into the graphic overrides, let's first of all look in our project browser in the lower left as to where this information is displayed and how it's displayed. So in the project browser in the lower left of your screen, if you scroll down to families, families are basically where all of the preloaded content is stored that you would use inside of your Revit project. And this can be anything, and not just system information, but chairs and desks, architectural information, structural information, depending upon what you're actually doing within Revit. Since we're in mechanical or MEP, I'm going to look for the mechanical or MEP elements, i.e. my duct system. For example, what I have here on my screen. So if you scroll down, you'll actually see the systems are treated just like any other family content member. You see the main heading and then subheadings, and then each element that's here that I could use to place within my Revit model. These are examples of the duct systems and my example of the different air components for the systems as they're listed. Each one has properties. So as you click, you could see the properties for each of these components or the system that I'm currently looking at. Same thing for plumbing. If I go down, I have my various plumbing systems and the components for these that I could look at and change. Now, if you wanted to make a modification, and this gets into where we talk about graphic overrides. But generally, if you want to modify anything here, for example, with this exhaust air system, technically, I would want to duplicate this. Best practice would be duplicate or create a new version of this air exhaust system or this component, because you don't want to change any of the original components data, because if you go to upgrade, that may be overwritten. So a good practice or good rule would be to create a duplicate or rename it to something else and then change those elements. But even another thing with that would be make sure you have view templates correctly set up beforehand so you know what is to be hidden or shown within the view if you create that new component or system. So now let's look at how we can actually change the graphic overrides. One way is you could obviously just click each of these elements and change the graphic overrides in the property box, or another way is you could use the system browser. So to turn on the system browser, let's go to the user interface dropdown and checkmark system browser. This will turn on all of the elements for all of the systems that you currently have within your Revit project. Scroll down until you get to the mechanical supply air 32 system. This is the actual system we see on our screen. Now, one method would be if I truly did want to modify the graphics of this system, you could technically edit this type. So to do that, one way would be I could right click and choose properties. That'll activate my properties on the left. I could then choose the duplicate system if I wanted to from my dropdown if I duplicated it. Or if you want to edit this type and change the graphic override, I could click edit type. Doing so will show me the type properties. And again, here you could duplicate this system, supply air, or I could change the graphic override. So in this case, I'm just going to click edit by the graphic override, change the color to red in this example, click OK. Click OK again, and finally click OK again. Now what you'll see is the components of the system, the diffusers if you will, turn red, and the system itself is highlighted in red. Now the color also varies on the individual system settings and properties. But each of these diffusers, if I mouse over a diffuser, I can actually see they're red and they highlight as I click on each one. Now the reversal is true too if you wanted to remove the actual overrides. Simply go back to the mechanical air 32 system, in this case, choose edit type, choose edit to the right of graphic overrides, and for color, set that to no override. Then click OK, OK again. And now your system and its components go back to their normal color assigned either by the view or by the component itself. So in this lesson, we looked at graphic overrides specifically for HVAC and plumbing layouts. We first looked at how the actual systems and their components are organized in our project browser under families. We then discussed duplicating our components or our systems if we want to modify an element as a best practice. From there, we went to look at the project browser and how we can view the properties from the project browser of a system and its components and be able to change the graphic overrides of that system and components.